Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your...
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets with Rob. How is everybody doing today? Once again, guys, if you enjoyed this video, please hit on that like button if you enjoy my content. Want to see more, want to get notified when I post my videos, and when I go live, you guys know what to do. Hit on that subscribe button, everybody. All right, guys, so we all know David Stearns is the new man of the organization now, the president of baseball operations. He is running the show. And what does that mean for Buck Showalter? There was reports that came out that Buck Showalter might not want to go the next year in the last year of his deal and just step down. And there's some talk that David Stearns might want to go in a different direction. We will talk about that in this video. So first off, we all know that Buck Showalter's last year of his deal is for 2024. He will be a lame duck manager with last year of his deal. I even think if the Mets won 2 World Series in a row, I think Buck Showalter last year would be the last year of his deal. So is it going to be David Stearns saying, all right, Buck Showalter had a really good year in 2022 and a bad year in 2023. You can give a lot of credit to Buck Showalter, or you can give none of the credit to Buck Showalter for 2022, and you can give all the blame for Buck Showalter in 2023, or none of the blame. So it's going to go in a box where David Stern is going to look at it from an outside perspective. Is it true about the clubhouse? Is it true that Buck Showalter was the main reason for the debacle of 2023? But if 2023 was his fault, then we can't give him the credit for 2022. That's where David Stern has to look outside the box, and a guy who came from outside the organization where there's no connection to hiring that manager, and of course to a lot of the players. But is Buck Showalter and David Stearns, who will have a conversation soon enough, decide that the best thing to do is to go in a different direction? Because I don't know if Buck Showalter wants to stay there on a 1-year deal that's left and be a lame duck manager no matter what happens, winning the World Series or not making the playoffs, depending on what happens next year. So in Buck Showalter's case, there's a possibility that he could actually step down after the season is over and make that decision a little bit more easier for David Stearns. And that's something that is going to happen, I think, rather quickly. I think there's going to be a decision made rather quickly, and I don't think David Stern is going to waste time with that, specifically after the season is over and the World Series is over, because they got a lot of work to do, especially in the farm system when it comes to scouting and development with coaches in that aspect. And then they have to get into, the winter meetings and off season and free agents and trades and all that stuff. So Stearns, new manager. There's a lot of speculation out there that David Stearns wants Craig Counsell to be the manager. He wants to go from Milwaukee to the Mets. That's been a lot of talk around the town, and there has been some reports about that. But there also has been reports that Craig Counsell will want to take a year off after this season. So that kind of lines up directly with Buck Showalter possibly being here for the remainder of his contract with his last year of his deal of 2024. So if Craig Counsell, who David Stern reportedly wants as the manager of the Mets, would David Stern say, all right, let's just run with Buck Showalter. He had one good year, one bad year, and we'll roll the dice with that, with the roster that I will be putting together? Or the problem with that is, or with not remaining with Buck Showalter, what manager, if Craig Counsell wants to take the year off, there is nobody in baseball that is a manager or was a manager or that would want that job in New York long term, is not going to take it on a 1-year trial basis, knowing that David Stearns wants Craig Counsell. That no coach, no manager is going to want to sign a 1-year deal, because if it ends up being a bad year, the blame's probably going to go on the manager, just like it's going on the manager this year with Buck Showalter. So you're not going to have a lame duck manager that's going to sign a 1-year deal, and there's no guarantee of being a manager in 2025. for the New York Mets. And again, if you have a bad season, who's really going to want that manager after that? So the problem that David Stearns is going to run into if looking for a new manager, if Buck Showalter is fired in the offseason, unless Craig Counsell or David Stearns convinces Craig Counsell to not take that year off, I don't see anybody but Buck Showalter if Craig Counsell is going to take that year off. So it doesn't make sense for the Mets or David Stearns to fire Buck Showalter, not hire Craig Counsell because he's going to take a year off, and then hire somebody just for 1 year. That doesn't really make sense. So I do think there's more of a chance for Buck Showalter to stay, which probably is going to be less popular among the fan base, but it makes the most sense. It's very hard to get rid of a manager who had one really good year and one really bad year and make it and act like Buck Showalter didn't do anything good here when he did, even though this season was a debacle all around. Is Buck Showalter the right man for the job? Some say yes, some say no. I'm probably going to go on the edge where I just think he had a bad year this year. I think that there was a lot of times this year where he took out starters too early, or he left in guys, especially bullpen guys, in too long. He didn't walk certain batters, playing certain guys over other guys, even though the guy that they kept on playing wasn't doing good and didn't really want to try somebody else. And that leads right into Buck Showalter is more of, I'm going to play my veterans who I trust rather than the prospects. But where people don't really understand is that now is the time to get mad at Buck Showalter. Why is that? Because right now the Mets are out of it. We all know that. Why isn't he playing all the rookies, all the prospects every single day? Right? You know, obviously Alvarez needs some days off because he's a catcher, but there's no reason why Vientos, Beatty, Mauricio shouldn't be playing every single day. There is no need to play anybody else but those guys in those positions that they're in. And I know Buck Showalter came out and said that, you know, he respects other teams and wants to put the best available and wants to put the best lineup there and, you know, respect the other teams that are fighting for a playoff spot. That's fine. But you're not coaching those other teams. You're trying to develop these players because the games really don't matter. It's what the experience they're getting now that can help you in 2024. So is Buck Showalter, and this is a problem what I think David Stearns is really going to look for, and why I think Buck Showalter could be out, is because I don't know if David Stearns wants Buck Showalter in limbo with veterans and prospects, unless David Stearns really just gives him a roster that has a lot of prospects and a lot of young guys, and Buck Showalter really doesn't have a choice. That could happen too when the roster development goes on, and David Stearns might get a lot of young guys, and Buck Showalter will not have a chance to put in, you know, Rafael Ortega or, you know, Daniel Vogelback or Omar Narvaez or guys like that, and David Stearns might not give him a chance. So if Buck Showalter doesn't change his tune, even though everybody wanted the prospects way too early, and to kill Buck Showalter because he played veterans in June or in May doesn't make sense, because you were still in the mix of trying to make the playoffs. You can't just ride with the prospects and they fail and then you have nothing to turn back to, because it's harder to turn back to the veterans than it is to, you know, say, all right, let's just play with the prospects. And that's why I think earlier in the year when Escobar got traded, I think they really believed that Beatty was ready to take that mantle. But again, it's going to be a decision that Stearns is really going to have to make. It's going to be very interesting to see what David Stearns do, because I think he likes playing the young guys and going with them, especially if he believes they're talented and can make some moves and do some damage and help this team win. That's what I think Stearns will be looking at for 2024. And my opinion on Buck Showalter, I always liked Buck Showalter. I thought the hire was the right hire to make. And we go crazy off of 1 year where the starting pitching from day one of the season was already injured, already a disaster. Scherzer couldn't find his way out of a paper bag. Jose Quintana was gone. Verlander was gone for, I say, 2 months, because the first month, obviously, he was out. When he came back, it took him a full month to get back to, you know, a little bit of what Verlander is. And then when Verlander started to pitch great, the Mets were basically dead and buried, basically, for the playoffs. I know they were technically involved, but we all know that they were never going to go on a run. So, yeah, you can put a handful of games on Buck Showalter, but you also have to have a lot of looks on the rotation where the first month and a half, not one starting pitcher for the Mets went more than 6 innings. Now, I do give blame for Buck Showalter not putting in certain pitchers, bullpen arms in the right spots, making decisions where not walking Vladimir Guerrero Jr. There's a lot of those instances as well. But when your best player, your face of your franchise, bats under 200 or barely over 200, and you have your shortstop hitting 212, and then you have Marte, a shell of himself, Nimmo trying to hit home runs and not giving that on base that we really need from Brandon Nimmo, McNeil hitting 60 points left. It's really hard to just blame the manager and say that's the reason why, because there was a lot of people, a lot of Mets fans that said Buck Showalter, if they fire him, it's going to get better. And that's nonsense when everything was going wrong on this team, from the rotation, from the bullpen to the lineup. And to just blame Buck Showalter is asinine. Now, does he deserve to be back? I think he does. I think when you have one really good year, when you were one of the best teams in baseball, and it's not Buck Showalter's fault that guys, after Marte went down in September in 2022, that the big payday Lindor guy and Pete Alonso, who's the face of your franchise, basically were non-existent in September, wasn't very good in September, who the two guys are supposed to put the team on their back. Just because Marte was gone, that's not Buck Showalter's fault. And then we lost a lot of close games. The offense didn't show up in September. That's not on Buck Showalter. So if you're going to give no credit for 2022, don't give Buck Showalter all the blame in 2023. What do you guys think about Buck Showalter? Do you think because Craig Counsell is going to take the year off, it doesn't make sense to fire Buck Showalter just to bring in a lame duck manager for 1 year? And who's really going to take that job knowing that you're probably going to be let go after the season for Craig Counsell after the 2024 season? It just makes sense to keep Buck Showalter. But David Stearns is probably going to have to put his foot down with Buck Showalter and say, listen, if you're not going to play the kids that's shown, at least most of the kids that's shown that they can play every day, it does not make sense to bring you back. And maybe Buck Showalter steps down anyway. But I want to know what you guys think. Do you think Buck Showalter should be back for the 2024 season? Or should the Mets just put up a manager from within the organization? Maybe a Beltran for the 1 year, but even Beltran probably won't take it for 1 year. Chavez, I don't know. But I do know that that's a big decision to make, and I want to know what you guys think. Buck Showalter back for 2024. Let me know in the comments, guys. Hit on that like button. Don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, hit on that like button. Subscribe to the channel. Keep on coming back for more, guys. The 2023 season was a disaster. It's almost over, and when we get into the offseason, we're going to see what David Stearns is all about with his 5-year deal, and all talks are $10 million a year for the highly sought-after executive. Once again, guys, thank you for watching, and as always, Met fans, let's go Mets.
Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering.